29.
28.
27.
26.
25.
24.
23.
22. 21.
20.
19.
18.
17.
16.
15.
14.
13. 12.
11.
10.
8.
6.
6. What happened to 7?
7.
5.
4.
3.
2.
1. 0.
Well, there's only one person here, and I imagine it's because one of those other assholes on one of those other channels has given something away. So, at any rate, we've got Brian Nadeau here from Sharp by Design. We're going to do, basically, this is going to be the podcast. So if you're listening to this on Apple iTunes, you can find the actual video for this down in the description below. So let's go ahead and bring Brian in. Hey, buddy.
What's up, man?
Nothing much. I imagine Metal Complex or Bees Blades is doing the typical giving stuff away because, well, that's just what they do on their channel. I don't do that. I don't need those vultures on my channel.
Friday nights, do they do it a typical, like they do a specific night of the week?
Bees Blades does a giveaway, I don't know, all the time. Metal Complex was doing a giveaway earlier. I don't know if they're still live. I really don't. I didn't check. I was watching old UFC fights
Nice.
while I was setting up. So, yeah. So haven't gotten a chance to really talk to you since I saw you in Vegas. I mean, we talked a couple times on the phone, but I haven't really got a chance to talk to you since that time in Vegas.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been that long. I didn't get to see. I didn't get to make it to Blade Show this year, so I didn't see you there, and I didn't go to Texas. So yeah, the last time was Vegas at USN when I picked up the Arch Nemesis.
So that was a couple years ago because they didn't have it last year because of
Yeah, they
COVID,
didn't.
right? So it had to be
Exactly.
at least a couple years ago.
Yeah, it's been a couple years.
Huh.
Man, it was so hard to send that thing off to the actual owner. Like I had it, and I was like, maybe I'll send a box that. Maybe I'll send a box that looks like I sent something and it was damaged. And I'm like, I don't know what happened.
Yeah,
I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. So, yeah, there's a handful of people here now. So my first question for you, because I know that you started making knives, not coming from a knife making background. So tell us how that all happened. I mean, it kind of reminds me of another knife maker that really isn't a knife maker, but was just a machinist that decided to make knives.
Yeah, I mean, first off, no matter what I ever did in my life, before I was a machinist, before I had machine design, I mean, from when I was a little kid, you know, when Christmas came and I got that new, you know, $500 RC car, I didn't drive it. I took it apart and fucked it up. You know, that's just what I thought I could modify, you know, but everything I own, there's nothing that's stock. There's nothing. I don't own a lot of extravagant things, but everything I do own, whether it be guns or fishing pole rods and reel, everything is customized, you know, everything is customized for myself. I just like to have unique stuff, you know. But what happened was my wife met a guy, Bill, who was hand forging knives. And she came back. She was at one of his parties. She came back and told me, you know, this guy down the street, what he does. And I ended up hooking up with him, I think a couple months later. And he showed me what he was doing. I said, oh, let me show you what I can do as a machine at that point. And so I made my first couple knives, and it kind of just snowballed from there.
I do have to say that it's kind of like, I mean, it's similar to the Grimsmo stuff. Like John says all the time, he's like, he's just a machinist. He's not a knife maker. He just happened to be a machinist that was like, well, what can I make? Let's make a knife. And it turned into an animal that he couldn't control. And now it's, I mean, they make, just like yours, some of the best CNC made knives on the market. As a matter of fact, guys, I texted Brian the other day. I had the hell one was that came in that I sharpened, and it's always a joy when one of your knives comes in because the edges on them.
A mini Typhoon, I think it was.
Yeah, it was a mini Typhoon. The edges are always so good and consistent that it really doesn't take much unless somebody,
you know, because I do it the long way. You know, by the time I get to that point, I don't want to screw up the knife. I would rather take 15 minutes to sharpen an edge, than to take 3 on a belt sander and jack it all up and be starting from scratch.
Well, the only time I've ever had an issue with one of your knives when it came in was because someone else decided to sharpen it. And they were like, I really shouldn't have undertaken this on
That
such
happens
a
once in a
nice
while.
knife.
I mean, most of the time, all you have to do is if you strop it a lot, often you don't have to. You don't even have to sharpen them.
Well,
But it depends. Depends where you're going,
you have not seen the shit that I put my knives through.
I know, cutting sheetrock and shit. Yeah, that was gonna jack it up a little bit.
Yeah, I cut people are like, oh wow, like you got a Norseman. Like I got a $1,200 knife I carry in my pocket, and I'm doing shit with it. I should never. Like most people are like, I'm like, it's a fucking tool. It's just a really expensive good tool.
But it's a cutting tool. So if you're using it to prise something,
Yeah,
and you have
no,
to
I
do a
don't.
screwdriver, any of that kind of shit, then it's like,
No, I don't do
what
that.
you
But
get.
I'm just saying, like most people are like, oh, you should use a cheap knife for that. And I was like, I have a knife in my pocket. Like before I started having so much stuff come in for the channel, I like carried one knife, and then once I started having to review so many things, I started carrying like multiple knives a day. And I get cardboard from my neighbors. I'm like, I'll cut your cardboard up for you so it fits in your recycling bin, because I gotta test ergos on this knife and shit like that. Let me see. I was gonna so as far as like knife design, kind of who inspired some of your designs, because you've got your designs are really distinctive. And I don't see a lot of other knives that I could like, oh, that's kind of like this. Like if you looked at my fixed blades, you definitely go, oh, that looks like a Ferrum Forge, only it's a fixed blade. Because Elliot taught me.
I think part of that is I didn't really know about a custom knife market when this all happened. When this all first started, I didn't even know there was these things out there. So I didn't really look at other people's work much. I just kind of thought about it on my own, like what I liked. And I think that really helped me find my style. And I still do that to this day to a certain extent. I try not to look at anybody else's stuff. I don't want to be influenced by other people's stuff. I want my work. I want what I do to, now, that being said, no matter what you do, almost, things have been done before, to a certain extent.
Yeah.
So there are things that overlap both ways, but it's, you try not to do that. I go to Levon or other people I know all the time and say, who does this look like?
Does this look like somebody else's knife? Yeah. You know what? Other makers
a lot of times it does. A lot of times it
Yeah.
does, because ergonomics make it look that way,
Well, and there's a lot of times that like makers usually don't get too bent. Like if something's similar, like because they at this point, like how many thousands of years we've been making knives, there's only like so much you can do. Like at some point, every knife's going to start looking like somebody else's knife.
Right. That being said, you should also, it's so easy to change little things to make it yours. If you like some attribute that it has, but make it yours, Yeah. Like, I mean, I'm sure I've had a couple of my designs totally hacked exactly now to this point. It's like, so the dagger was taken, that shape. They made it at this small little cheap thing, but it's like, just change it up a little bit and make it yours, and it wouldn't be a big deal, but they made it look exactly like mine. I was like, come on.
That, that big combat knife design that I have through Wheat, the Stonefish, there is an absolute 1-for-1 duplicate of it on Amazon. I was like, well, how about that? And I was kind of like, I don't care if somebody's like, oh, I want to make it look similar, but like it's the exact same knife. I'm like, that's just lazy. That's just lazy.
Yeah,
it's
really.
Just lazy.
Change it up a little bit.
And so I went. Elliot Williamson was like, well, now you've made it. Like if somebody went to the trouble of copying your design 1-for-1, he's like, that's how you've made it. He's like, it sucks.
Yeah, but
you're not making any money on that.
It's just crappy either way.
Yeah,
it just doesn't have to be like that.
Yeah, it's. I haven't seen too many, but then usually what you hear is like you see knives that are like very different. People are like, oh, that looks just like that. And I'm like, I don't think it does. I think maybe you need to go take a closer look at what you're trying to compare that to.
My one friend all the time says, oh, this guy's making knives that look exactly like hers. And I'm like, what are you talking about, man? It's not even close. Like, it's
Yeah.
What you mean? It has an edge? Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Just if that's what it mean, if that's what you mean, all right, then I got it.
It has a blade and a handle and a locking mechanism.
Yeah, I mean, things are going to look the same to a certain extent. That's where
Yeah.
all the little details that I try to put in to try to stand out from other people is,
I think we're going to reach a
what sets me
point.
apart.
I think we're going to reach a point eventually where it's going to be like some of the fixed blade knives or some of the slip joints where there's a pattern. Like if you look in the slip joint world, every sway back looks almost identical.
Right.
A muskrat looks like two long, slender blades open in the opposite direction with a little bit of a curve on the handle, really thin knife. They all look almost identical. And then you could look at things like the Canadian belt knife and a roach belly and things like that. Because I heard people saying like, oh, this guy stole Big Brown Bear's design. I was like, Big Brown Bear is making a Canadian belt knife, basically, or a roach belly. Like that knife he's making is a pattern. Those have been around since the French trappers in Canada days. And that's, it gets into that point where like, you're looking at, what company does it better? Who's making the better version of that knife? I think that's what's going to wind up happening at some point.
I mean, it seems, if you follow what the past has been like, yeah, you look at all those style of knives, that's what happened. But, I don't know. It's getting to be like going to a car show. You go walk around the knife show, and it's like going to a car show. You see so many good things.
Yeah.
Eventually, it gets diluted a little bit. It's like I saw so much already.
This is exactly, he's talking about exactly what I was getting ready to mention, because you said it, and I've said it a bunch of times on the channel. People are like, "Oh, what's your favorite part about shows?" And I was like, I like going to shows like Blade Show West, but when you or some of the other shows. But when you go like to the custom shows, like at the end of the day, you could only look at so many stag-handled Damascus buoys, because like after you go down so many rows of knives,
and they're all perfect.
They're all great, yeah,
perfect. It's like
and by the end of the show, like by the end of the day, you're like, you could be looking at the best knife at the show, and at that point, you just don't fucking care anymore. You're like, hey, it looks like everything else I've fucking seen all day today. Yeah, that's one of those things. Like you have to break it up. Like when you're walking around a show, you gotta like, I gotta go look at something else for a little bit. So I've mentioned that so many times. And this is for you, Aiden. Thank you for the donation. I got a little super chat there. Let me see. So I've had a lot of people ask me, because a lot of people know that we're friends. I've got this. They're like, why is Brian so angry? Because they listen to the podcast. And I'm like, Brian's not angry. He's just from New Jersey.
Don't give me up.
He's not angry. He's just from New Jersey.
Exactly,
it's a constant state. Like that's just a natural state for anyone from New Jersey.
Everything is aggravation. Everything is a battle. So you have to just, you wear it on your sleeve,
Because you fucking live in New Jersey. I was like, if I lived in New Jersey, I'd be mad about it too.
It's not easy. Not easy. We were looking to get out of here a couple years ago. And I want to go down south. I want to get away from snow. I'm done dealing with snow, even though I don't have to travel in it. I stay home. I work from home. I don't have to go out in it, but I still just hate it. I hate shoveling. I hate dealing with it.
I hate driving these days. Like I live in San Diego. I don't have to ever worry about snow. But I definitely hate driving these days. The channel's the only the channel and the knife sharpening is the only income I got between the knees and the intestinal issues. And I had to resign from that position at the construction company. I just can't. Like I'm looking at a knee replacement and possibly another shoulder surgery and losing 2 feet of my intestine before too long. Like
if you can survive on it, that's excellent, man. It's not easy. I'm so happy. I used to commute at least an hour each way for years, and it gets old. It's when you really figure out how much time it takes away from your life. It's like all that time I spent in that car. And you put your life in your hands every time you go in the car, especially since COVID. People seem to be driving 10 times worse since COVID. I don't get it.
Well, I mean, out here in San Diego, it was bad to begin with. I thought people in Ohio, where I grew up, I was like, these got to be the worst drivers in the world. And then I went to Japan, and it was pretty bad. I was like, wow, this is even worse. Like you've got to have like a sense of ESP to know what to go. Oh, I have my turn signals on, I can turn. And I'm like, I literally had a girlfriend one time tell me, she was like, she saw me looking and she's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm checking my mirrors." She's like, "Why?" And I was like, "So that I know where the cars around me are." She's like, "I thought those were only for parking." And I was like, well, that fucking explains a lot. That explains a lot right there.
The Japan, are they like, do they have lights and everything that are very regimented like ours? Or is it kind of, because you see some countries where I guess, and I don't even know where they are, but it's just like 15 lanes coming into 15 lanes and they all just cross as they want. It's like, what the hell is going on there?
It's not like that. It's not like that, really. I mean, there are, okay, so in Japan, one, the roads, like the lanes are way more narrow. So you just definitely have to be a better driver to maintain your lane. Lights and everything are standard. Stop signs are a little bit different. They're triangles, but like you get a handbook when you first get to Japan. They teach you what to look for. You're driving on the left side of the road as opposed to the right. But once you get out in town,
do all that.
once you get out of town and get out into the mountains areas, like in southern Japan where I lived, like what we would consider a 1-lane road, that's actually 2 lanes, and you might run into a bus. And you're like, "Fuck, I gotta
side of
back
a
up."
cliff.
Yeah, literally, no joke. Like you're like, I have
thanks.
to back up. I'm like, the last wide spot was because downhill traffic always has right of way, and buses always have right of way. So if there's a bus coming, you got to back up to the next wide spot in the road. You're like, I'm going to drive off the cliff. So no, it's not. I mean, it's pretty cool, but like, it definitely is like red lights, green lights, all that stuff. The markings on the roads are still the same. I think my friends have arrived. Oh, what is your favorite knife design that you've made out of all the designs that you've had?
Not including the dagger, because that would without a doubt be my favorite, but not including the dagger.
I mean, yeah,
I really like the Void XL. That's what I would make to carry for myself, I think. I don't know.
I got to see the Void. I got to see the Void. Levon
The Void has a small handle, though. I'm not fond of the Void for my size hands. For if you have smaller hands, it's probably okay. But for my size hands, I was like, no way, it's way too small.
We talked about this. You're like me. You've got like deceptively large hands. Like I wear a XXL glove, and it was just a little bit. It was a little bit small for me. The Void, it was a great looking knife. But you told me that the Void XL was the one I needed to see, and then I completely you said you were going to send me one, and I completely forgot to even get with you. And then
sorry if I didn't.
No, it was you told me to get with you, and I just completely spaced it. And then like after they were all gone, I was like, oh shit, yeah, it's my fault. It usually is. Ask my wife. I know this. Well, we'll have to work something out for that. Yeah, that thing is. I love that great big aperture, the flipper aperture on it.
And the handle with a little more handle there, it feels right,
There's been a handful of knives that have come in, and I've said that, and people just got really bent out of shape that I gave the knife, like I said something about the knife. I had a knife maker that wanted to sue me because I said that like the handle didn't feel good in my hands because I got big hands and it was a skinny knife that like didn't sit in the right position. And I was like, I said that the knife was overall a good knife. It just didn't fit. I said that about the Void. Like, it's a great knife. It's just not great.
I might have threatened a person or two over some reviews.
See, I don't ever give anything a bad overall review. It's just like, I mean, how like that's some thin skin stuff. Like I've had people complain about my fixed blades, and I'm like, well, don't like. Okay, you didn't like it. I'm cool with that. Like,
yeah, I mean, everybody has an opinion. I get it. You guys have a job to do. I have a job to do. What I always ask from all the reviewers is if you have a question, instead of just guessing and making up some bullshit, ask me, why'd you do this? Why didn't you do this? Sometimes there's, you have to sacrifice on one thing to do something else. And so, yeah. I mean, everything leads you to a place, and I get it. It's when the guy keeps going at it, podcast after podcast after podcast, and you talk to him and say, listen, straight up, you don't like my stuff? That's fine. We all know your opinion now. Shut the fuck up.
That's for you and him. I was like, let's just consolidate it. I get it, and I mean, I try not to be super critical. There are a couple companies that I just don't like, and I try not to talk about it. I've made no bones that I don't like Greg Medford as a person. Like Greg's a nut. I don't like Greg as a person, but I have said on numerous occasions, Greg's knives are not the knives I would buy, but they are possibly some of the best U.S. made knives you're going to get. They're up there. They're way up there. They're just like his designs aren't for me. I just think he's a garbage human sometimes. Like just not even the stuff that happened like at Blade Show with the shirt. This was before, like the way he deals with customers and the way he deals with people at the table, and like when he's having a bad day, he just I even as angry as you are, I've seen you at the table in Vegas. And you can see that your patience was running thin, but I never saw you explode at anyone. You were like, I need to take a breath.
Nah, never. I'm normally pretty good at the shows. I think I've been getting better.
No, you were.
For a while there when you're working. In like the first 5 years when I was working, 16, 17, 18 hours a day.
Yeah,
7 days a week for 5 years straight. Like the first 2 or 3 years, I didn't even take a day off. That's what
I've been doing lately.
Even when you're sick, you're going down, you're sick. I'm like trying to get the machine set up so I can run something, and then go upstairs and yak, in the toilet again.
No joke. I told you I was at the hospital this morning, and I was there for a while, and I came home and I sharpened 5 knives before we did the podcast because I was like, I gotta get these knives done.
I was surprised when I heard from you. I'm like, I'm surprised I was even gonna do it.
I try not to take too much, because once you have a schedule going with YouTube, you have to kind of stick to it. Right. Because if you're like, I do 9 videos a week, 3 live feeds, 5 shorts. Wow. And that's 7 days a week. I literally will get up Saturday and Sunday to film videos and stuff like that. And I still leave myself enough time. Like I just maybe 3-4 hours in the morning on Saturdays and Sundays just to keep up with the content. But if you don't do that, you drop down the algorithm because YouTube's like, oh well, he stopped putting this stuff up. Yeah, and then every day that you are behind, it drops you further down. It's like that thing like insurance agents say it, like 1 day off equals 4 days of work to get back to where you were. So
that's tough. That's a lot of work to come up with all that.
I mean, you enjoy what you're doing. I enjoy what I do. Like I enjoy this. I love the sharpening. I like doing the videos. I love doing the live feeds. I like now that I've got the capability of doing a podcast somewhat professionally with lighting and good sound and a green screen. I enjoy that too. So if I didn't like it, I wouldn't be putting 16, 18, 20 hours a day into it, Yep. So you got the void. There we go. Let's see here. Oh, I wanted to. Your process as a make. Do you still? I know you still do make some knives, but now you've moved kind of to having the production stuff to pick up the slack. So, how does that work? How do you manage the split between the two?
It's been tough because I've been very lazy lately. For me to actually do anything lately, I've been so busy with life. A little bit about what's going on with my wife and some other family members and stuff. So I got a lot of stuff happening right now. So I've been a little lazy lately, but I'm still going to keep making customs. I am going to, whenever I can, come up with new designs. Now the offshore designs for yacht design, the yacht made knives.
Good choice. Good choice, by the way. Very good choice. Like, there's a couple companies that I don't give a shit what anybody says about offshore. Riat, there's a couple other ones but Riat is top of the line in my opinion on everything they make.
Yes, no, their times are getting a little out of hand, But I'm also ordering a decent amount of knives now,
Yeah.
So I'm not. It's I understand that it's taking a lot of time, but I keep sending people their way too, and I'm like, I'm kicking my own ass doing that. It's like, why am I doing that?
Yeah,
So it's great though. They do a good job. It's like I said, their times have been a little off lately, but when I get them in, 99% of them are fantastic. There's always going to be something that slips by, and that's why I get extras and make sure I have something to replace knives with, and I can do that until
Spare
they're
parts and all that
gone,
stuff.
and then then I move on. But a lot of the knives I will revisit at some point anyway. So like for some reason, clips have been go crazy when I have clips made. So I always have a bunch of extra clips and stuff. It's like the day everybody gets these knives in their hand, now I offer them with extra. You can buy extra clips and stuff when you order it. But the day they start receiving these, I sell out of all the clips and all the stuff, and I keep ordering more each time, thinking there's got to be enough. It's like I don't know what's going on with clips, but
So are you talking like upgraded clips, like in different?
no, not even
materials?
upgrade, just like replacements.
You know what? I can honestly say I've never ordered was a new clip. I've never. That's something I've like that. Like you're saying it. I'm like
In the beginning, they didn't.
why?
I have them sitting around. Like from the first 2 knives I made, I got tons of them sitting in there. But like the last few knives, they go in a second. The day people start getting knives.
That's weird. I mean, you said that, and I was like, I thought maybe you're doing because some makers will offer aftermarket clips for their knives, like Arcane Design. He'll sell you the knife, but he also makes these pivot collars, and they're milled out. There's a spot for him, and he does them in Damascus, and he does some that are black coated.
And
he does. Some
I
that are
always meant
colored
to
red.
go there and want to do that. It's do I keep going with the full-on customs? I'm trying not to grow my shop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't want to manage that. To me, managing people isn't what I enjoy. So
Did it for enough years in the military. People are like, "Oh, you should like start making knives and build a shop, and then maybe hire someone. You can teach them to do sharpening. You could expand it." And I was like, "No, I don't." Well, here's the thing: I don't fucking like people. I just
bingo.
don't.
And even if you did, I mean, it's hard to find people you can trust. The people I do like, so I hired a local kid to just come over and help me in the shop a little bit, and he was really interested in CNC stuff. So I would teach him a little bit, and then I would let him run these parts. It was run operation 1, remove these screws, put screws in the other spot, run operation 2, and those screws are shoulder bolts, so they're $6 a piece. Make sure you remove the screws. I'm behind the machine here. I'm cutting through the screws. I'm like, "Gonna remove the screws again." Yeah. And I get that. And there's going to be a learning curve for them, some of that stuff. But then what would happen is he didn't want to show, when I didn't have enough work for somebody really full time. He was looking for extra stuff.
Yeah.
But every time I had, time that I needed somebody to do something, he wasn't around. I'll come over for 2 hours. That doesn't do me. 2 hours doesn't give me shit. It doesn't make a difference to me. So it's just to find people that are willing to come and do the work, and it's
work ethics. Work ethics a big thing. I see that. I was telling somebody here the other day that so while I was trying to save up enough money for the wife and I to get married, we got married in Japan. It's really expensive, and my father-in-law was willing to pay for all of it. I was like, I can't do that. I have got to pay for, and so. I was in the military and I was saving up the money for it, for the wedding ring and stuff. I took a part-time job. I had a friend that had gotten out of the Navy. He was married, and his father-in-law owned a garbage truck company. And I literally 6 days a week would drive a garbage truck for 3 hours after work. I would work a full 8-10 hour day and then drive up the hill from the base, change out of my uniform, change into these grubby coveralls, and drive a garbage truck and go pick up. The worst was I used to have to one day a week I had to pick up stuff at the fish market when they got deliveries, and it was these big styrofoam cooler things, and the fish would come in those with ice, and then they would just put them out there. But this one time they had been out there. I remember it was the 6th of July. And it's 108 degrees in Sasebo, Japan, and it's 90% humidity. And I go to grab these, and whoever had put them out that day had not washed them out. And I go to throw the bundle of them up in the back of the truck, and it just fish guts that had been out in the sun since 5:30 in the morning.
Really,
and this is 6 or 7 o'clock at night, and I'm just I'm driving a garbage truck, my head out the window,
that's brutal. anything that ferments like that is nasty. Like
It's bad.
the other thing that's bad is like a dead deer. You find a deer, you smell a deer from like 100 yards away in the woods, and it's as you get closer, that, like you said, I'll take your breath away. Brutal.
There we go. Tri-State EDC. My buddy Cole. He says my parents have run a CNC shop for 35 years. Their biggest issue since the beginning has been hiring people that want to be there. Yeah.
Everybody wants to make money, but they don't want to work they don't want to work their way up. They want to come in and go, I want to be a big shot.
Yeah, it's work ethic. Like, I grew up on a farm in Southeast Ohio, so it's like I could, like, my grandfather was like, well, I can handle. I said this to my kids on the ship too. I was like, yeah, I can handle stupid, and I can handle lazy. But if you're going to be dumb and stupid, he's like, I can fix. He's like, I can fix one. It's like I can fix stupid. Like I can work around stupid. I can give you jobs that just like, if you're dumb, I can give you jobs where you're not going to kill yourself. He's like, if you're lazy, I'll break that out of you. He's like, but if you're dumb and lazy, he's like, we're going to have problems. So, I am glad that you started doing the production stuff. And I've said this to a bunch of different knife makers, and people are like, oh, that's screwed up. They're doing these knives, and they're doing production. And I was like, I told Mark Begg and Mattia Brani the same thing. I was like, you're able now to offer knives that everybody wants, but just could never get. Like, they're never going to get the full custom one, but they can get something that is comparable
for a lot of people
at a price point they can afford. Yeah, I mean,
and look at even the prices of some of these knives are still ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my knives typically go between $325 and $525.
I was gonna say,
that's crazy. That's crazy. I mean,
it's really not these days, though.
Compared to what you're getting for custom knives and stuff, no, it's not and the quality that you're getting. But at the same time, I don't know. That's still crazy, the money that knives cost. It's nuts.
So this is.
I know what goes into it. So
yeah.
I mean, I get it, but it's still like, people are buying them at this price. I still find it unbelievable.
I love when I talk to other makers and I hear them talk about how production quality going up has really either, like, they're either really upset about it because they're like, now I can't compete, and I actually, because you know makers that do this, like they don't, like, they kind of just fuck around for like 4 months, and then like the week or two before a show they jump through their own ass to make like 12 knives right before a show, and that's just been the way they've done it, and they live off of shows. And now that production quality has gotten up, there's two camps. There's guys that are like, I really like it because now it's forced me, like, I've had to step up my game. Like Cole, Tri-State EDC, the way he does videos, super professional. It's like a TV show. And him doing that made me realize that my channel's not going to be successful unless I step up my game and change things and make things better and try to actually improve the end product. So you have a lot of knife makers who are like, yeah, it's great, because now that means I have to step up my game, which in all actuality is going to make their product better. And then there's a bunch of people who are just pissed off because I can't knock out this many. I was like, you could if you wouldn't, like, drink a bottle of Tito's vodka fucking 3 days a week and then try to get 1 day of work in, like that. That's
partying while you're trying to work doesn't always work too well. Once in a while, it's not too bad.
What was this? Oh, then crash a 500K machine.
Yeah, ugly stuff happens. Never done one that big though.
So Tri-State was like, Brian, I did the video on Evo Typhoon where it ended it saying I wanted to shove it inside of me. Like, that's how much he loved it.
Nice.
He's another weirdo from Ohio. So, no, I like the fact that there's quality budget knives. Like, at the price point you'd be paying for garbage knives in the past, there's quality knives out there now, and you kind of pick and choose your tiers. Like, if you want to get into
every price range or something, yeah, for sure.
And I like companies that are doing multiple, like some people are like, oh, I hate the fact that they only do this model at this price point, and then there's some companies that have, like, well, we make this knife in several different materials, several different types of handles, several different steel, and then you can get, yeah, then you can get.
I'm sorry. Go for
Yeah,
it.
no, go ahead. Like
That's where kind of I wanted to go, is have a bunch of different price points. But what I'm having a hard time getting around is some of the stuff that Riot will do, and the price difference is so little, and I'm like, why am I going to offer you know
yeah.
that next one lower? I don't know. I would like to get some knives in the lower price range, but I'm starting to change the way I do things around anyway. So I mean, I always kind of trying to evolve a little bit with it and see what works. But
Start making pins, aren't you? You're gonna start making them fucking $600 goddamn pins. That I'm like,
nah, I'm still
it's
not
like
doing
wiping
that
before you
yet.
poop. It doesn't make any fucking sense.
I'm not into making the pry bars and the toys. I'm not. I have hard enough. I can make and sell knives. Why am I going to make that
Yeah.
stupid shit?
I honestly I could never figure out like the whole thing, about like pry bars. I could never figure it out until I got a couple of them, and I was like I don't carry them. I absolutely don't carry them, but they're on my fucking workbench, and they get used all the fucking popping
Yeah.
stuff open, prying apart electronics because I've had to fix lights and shit. I'm like, like a spudger and shit, and there's some of them that people are making in titanium and steel, and they're just multi-person. I never could get behind it. I just never could understand it until I got one. But a $600 pin, I'm pretty sure I'm never gonna figure that one out. I was like, ooh, well, I leave pins lay all over the fucking place. Like I probably have lost $1,000 worth of those
pens and flashlights in my
sticks.
house do not last. You'll find that $400, $500 flashlight underneath my bed, or like where the hell's that been?
I looked for this thing for like a week, put it in my pocket, and then immediately took it out of my pocket. Couldn't figure out where the fuck I put it. It's like in the last 2 weeks, I have lost this thing twice for more than like 3 or 4 days at a time. I'm like, this is ridiculous.
Today, just trying to find these are my shooting ears, and but they're Bluetooth, so I use them for this kind of stuff. And I couldn't find them. I'm like, where are they? I looked everywhere in the house. I went through my whole gun cabinet, back and forth, every drawer 6 times, going, I know it was here. Took everything out, made a big fuss over it. I came upstairs. I'm trying to get other shit going to try to get some kind of headset going. And I go back down to the garage. I open up the drawer, right there. I'm like,
I swear to God, my wife moves shit just to watch me go.
Oh, I know my wife doesn't put
she
anything
has
in
to.
the right spot. Yeah.
Like I'll put something down and then turn around. And I'm like, where the fuck did it go? I have a cowbell. Like you heard the little thing that I do when somebody drops a super chat. It's on my little soundboard here. I got this thing set so I can, sounds, and I can like the cool thing is I can do I can make it sound like we're at the podium emceeing an event. But so I have a cowbell that I'll ring when people give me donations. My wife, I left it sit on the floor. My wife tripped over it. I haven't seen it since. And I know she didn't throw it away, but I was like, where'd you put my cowbell? She's like, I put it over there somewhere. I was like, where? She's like, I don't know. I don't remember. And I'm like, I'll find that like a month
not
from
that
now.
small,
It's a fairly good sized cowbell. And I'm like, fuck. So I wanted to ask, have you seen some of the companies that are putting out, like, I know that you deal with Riat and you've got your own business, but have you seen some of the knives that are coming out from some of the budget companies that are absolutely just fucking killing it? Because I wanted to, so this knife right here is the Miguron Valona. And I have to say that this is a $50 knife that I would put up against some $200 and $300 knives. I'm not going to say it's like a $700-$800 knife in comparison, but like when I found out the price, because I do all my reviews blind, I don't look up price, I don't look up material, I don't look up anything. I fly into it blind. That way, if it is like a $30 knife, I'm not biased. Yeah, I'm not biased against it. Or if it's a $600, I don't know. Like a lot of times, like I know the more expensive stuff. Like if somebody sends me one of your knives, I'm like, yeah, I know that's a pricey
like,
piece.
For me, it's like fishing rods. I've said the story before. I can go. There can be 50 fishing rods. I'll pick up 2 or 3 of them. The one that I like, of course, is the $400 rod. It's like every time, it never fails.
Yeah, no, I was really surprised. Like I was expecting this to be like $200-$300 knife. the action on it, the way it holds an edge, and all the machining, all the bells.
Was it like a 4-inch blade?
It's 9 inches overall. I think it's 4.5 inch, 4.25.
Oh.
And I was like, it's nice and light. It carries well. It's nimble. And I was like, a lot of times you get those cheap knives and they feel bulky and they don't have very good balance. And they shit materials. And I was like, I got this. I was expecting like at least $150. And it came from Jared Neves over at his channel, Neves Knives. And he goes, he knows how I do it. He's like, I'm not going to tell you anything about it. Like, you get it. You'll be surprised. He's like, wait till you find out.
Frame lock or a liner lock? What is it?
It's a liner lock. Nice little liner lock with G10 running on bearings. And I was like, I'm figuring $150, $200 maybe. If I could get that thing, I look it up and I was like, are you shitting me? It's like fucking, at the time it was like $72. And I was like, are you kidding me?
You
I
know,
have flashlights that cost more than that.
Yeah, the things that I find about the liner locks, though, because they are typically in that lower price range, is you can get one that has a decent lock bar depth, but so many of them are just like right to the other side. It's like you can't get that right.
It has definitely changed. I was gonna say I love a good frame lock. I always have, and I told everybody I was like, I don't like liner locks. I'm a frame lock guy. Liner locks just seem to me to be a little iffy. But there's a lot of companies now that have figured out they've figured out the
sweet spot,
that sweet spot of getting it to where it's locked up, it's not sticking, it doesn't feel like it's got any flex, and it's not all the way over. I mean, like your cheap stuff, like when you're talking like the $20. Well, I can't even say that. There's a handful of them in the $20 and $30 category these days that they've figured it out. And I was like, I like the way a liner lock feels in hand because you don't lose any of the ergos when the lock kicks over. Because a lot of guys don't think about like chamfering off that edge, and you're like, oh, that's great. That feels like it's like you couldn't have softened that a little bit. That feels like a home invasion. What the fuck is that? So, what I got here. Favorite other maker or designer?
Tailbone.
Yeah. Tell your boyfriend to go easier next time.
Nice.
Is it belt buckle? Was it the belt buckle? That's what got it. The belt buckle.
You douche. Don't do that to me on TV.
No. Okay. So, yeah. Favorite current other maker other than yourself?
Favorite.
Yeah. Who do you think is really just kind of knocking it out of the park with their designs and execution?
I tell you what, I mean, this guy's the knife that I'm going to say is unbelievable, but what he makes is beyond, he's making $5,000 plus knives. So it's not really an everyday thing, but I haven't been lately, I haven't been paying attention to the whole knife game. But this guy's knives has stuck out to me for some reason. Did you see the last two knives that Ron Best posted up?
No, but I have seen his knives. I haven't seen his.
Oh
knives.
My God! I mean, unbelievable. I'd look at them in awe. I'm just like, man, how much time would it take me to make something like that, and can I justify it?
Yeah, that's the other thing.
It's justifying it.
Well,
but I'm getting to that point where these Riot made knives are filling that gap, and it's going to allow me to be able to do that stuff.
And that's what you would. That's what you
had
told
want
me.
Or more. I can make more, or I can make them better.
Well, you had told us. You had told me that a couple of years ago when we talked, and right when COVID kicked off, you said you weren't going to some. I think we were talking about Blade Show West, and you said you weren't going, and then you weren't sure if you were going to Blade Show. That's what you had said, that like the React stuff is allowing you to have time to like explore different things and maybe do things a little bit differently. I'll tell you who impresses me every time I see anything. I'm kind of biased because I'm really good friends with Bob Terzuola. Like the fact that he's 76 years old and he's still just knocking knives out every day. He's
got that process down now.
Right? Like, I'm pretty sure like Bob
he's probably sleeping on it.
That's what I'm saying. Bob's like, so, and he still hand grinds. He still hand grinds his knives. And I told him this so many times, like I couldn't figure out why I was having inconsistencies on knives when I would grind them. And Bob watched what I was doing. He walks in and he sees me and he goes, "It's like you having problems where you gotta where the tip kicks in and you can't figure out how to keep that straight grinding it." I was like, "Yeah, it's exactly what happens. I get like at the tip it gets too thin." And he goes, start moving at the hip or stop moving at the waist." He's like, "You're doing this. You're moving in an arc." He's like, "Put your feet apart, move your hips. You move in a straight line." And I did that. And I was like, "Holy shit." Like that simple little thing. And I was
He's
like,
seen it all, I'm sure.
he just grinned and walked away. He was like, "Stop doing this and start doing this." And I was like, oh, like within a matter of seconds, I had realigned that edge. And I was like, how did I not think of that? That's the simplest thing. It's just it's like body physics. Like your body
Same
doesn't.
thing. When I first started doing stuff, I made this articulating 2x72 belt sander, but I made this articulating table for it with these guides. So I put the blade on one side and grind, and then I would put the blade on the other side, which was the exact opposite. So, and it was a cool machine.
Yeah.
But part of the problem I was having was every time the splice and the belt came around, you would see that in my, and RJ Martin's like, "Just take a diamond wheel and grind a little bit of that grit out of that area." I'm like, duh, and that just changed my life. It was like, I ended up not doing things that way anymore, but it was just like so obvious, and you need somebody to tell you,
I was trying to do I had a 600 grit. It was a 600 grit Trizac. I was trying to do a really fine finish on a knife, and I kept getting the same thing. You could see that. And Elliot came in and he's like, "Watch this." And he goes and he grabs this stone. Same thing. Like cleaned up that area. He's like, "Do it again." And I was like, "Ah." He's like, "It's a high spot because you got where the wheel
glue
and the platen is, you got a thick spot where the seam is." He's like, "If you clean that up," he's like, "it evens it out a little bit. You don't get that tick, 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 tick constantly hitting the belt."
So simple.
Fuck, I had something I was going to ask you and it just slipped my mind. Could be because I smoke a lot of devil's lettuce.
It's horrible.
It's horrible. It's horrible. I'm a horrible. God damn it! Now I can't think of what it. I can't think of what it was that I was going to ask you because we were talking about the machine.
Happens to me all day.
Well, I've had a lot of concussions too. I had beat about the head. Favorite blade steel. I'll think of it. It'll pop back into my head. Favorite blade steel to work with.
For me to work with personally, the Nitro V is really nice to work with. I like S90V for a knife, but that's sucks to work. I hate working 90V. So I typically what I've been doing is going every time I do a different knife, I kind of say, okay, the main steel that I'm going to do all the standard blades out of will be a different steel each time. I actually used Nitro V 2 times in a row just recently. But then I get to kind of mix it up a little bit and not stick on one thing all the time, It's but as far as machining and grinding and heat treating, the Nitro V is sweet. Easy to work.
S90V is one of my favorite steels in a knife for using a user knife, and I like sharpening it. It's there are some steels that are fun just to work with, like to feel like there's some stuff like when you do it, you're like, ooh, that's terrifying. That edge that it takes, and the way it cuts on stones, and I like some of the more challenging stuff. But I've made a couple knives in S125V that after temper were 67 Rockwell. That is a fucking nightmare. Like
imagine I know you go to a very high grit and everything too. When you're going to your edges, right?
It depends on what the customer wants. So I recommend staying no higher than 1,000 grit. I typically recommend that, but I'm able to go all the way to 10,000 and then strop up way further. Some steels you can get away with that on. But there's a lot of steels that they don't. Like they like the grain structure and everything. It's just it's sharp. Like if you were going to shave with it, it'd be great. But if you're going to try and do any work with it, it doesn't have any tooth. There's no actual, you know, the micro serrations and the carbides have been cut down to a point where it's so fine. So like with a, yeah, like with a straight razor, that's what you want. But so I'm gonna ask you a question, and I'm gonna have to go in, and I think I'm gonna have to beat a couple children. Future plans. Let's do some future plans, and then I'll be right back. You go ahead and give us some future plans, and I'm gonna go tell these two children to shut the fuck up.
All right.
Oh wait, no, I gave the wrong person the solo.
All right. So what I'm gonna do, there's a couple things going on.
Hey.
One of the things I'm going to start doing, which I've been really lacking in, is packaging. My packaging has been very simple. To this point, I said I want to keep the prices of, man, my eyes are beady tonight. I wanted to keep the pricing of the knives down as low as possible, so I didn't go extravagant packaging and COAs and stickers and all this little doodads inside the box. I'm going to start doing that, not on this Apex run, but I think the next run is going to have the newer stuff. So the boxes are going to be a little fancier. You're going to get all the little stuff that you want. Obviously price is going to reflect a little bit, but a lot of you have been telling me that's what you want. That's where you want that nicer appearance when you get something. And I get it. So I'm going to do that. Things are going to be a little different the way I am selling my knives. So customs are going to be the same way. I'm going to make them as they're made. I'll be putting up for sale or auction. As far as the production knives, they're going to go a little different. They're going to be sold mostly through dealers now. The dealers are going to get all the, I don't want to say plain ones, but the standard versions. And if I am going to offer any through myself, they're going to be Damascus or, a fancier version, a dress version of that stuff. So that's how that's going to start working out. And at the same time, I want to try to release 1 to 2 different designs a year. And while I'm doing that, some dealers will be taking some of my older designs and they'll be doing, exclusive runs that only they'll have of maybe, depending on how many they're getting, between 1 and a half dozen SKUs. So you will see some of my older stuff revisited in different formats soon, hopefully. I don't know. As long as everything with China keeps going good. I don't know. Not looking too good lately.
Yeah, I was going to ask. I don't want to talk about it here because that leads into a whole political thing, and that's not good for the channel because, well, they don't like when you talk about that stuff, and I run the risk of demonetizing the channel. But I thought of what it was that I wanted to ask you. How much do you look forward to front flippers going away? Like to never exist again?
I can do it now, so it's not that bad. If you like it, you like it.
I hate it.
It works, but I'm not a fan, really. I prefer a standard flipper. To me, there's no reason to do anything but a standard flipper. But that's everybody.
But you don't like
people don't like that
stuff.
tab sticking down.
Well, I mean, I do like. I can kind of understand it. Like I liked this knife, even though it is a front flipper only. I liked it enough that I got one. I do understand like some of the flipper deletes, but like I like the idea of like either a fuller that you can flick, like reverse flick it with your finger, or a thumb. I know you don't like thumb studs. You said you hate thumb studs worse than I personally like the option of having thumb studs on some stuff, but yeah, I don't like the front flippers only. And I just thought of something else that I wanted to ask you from a machinist standpoint, because people have asked. And this was one of the questions I wanted to ask you, and I forgot to write down. So as a machinist, can you kind of explain why, and I don't have my knife case here, but I can show you on my Norseman. So the cutout on the outside versus the inside, and why why you would prefer one versus the other. I mean, I kind of already know why, as from talking with people that are machinists. Like that's an extra operation that requires an extra fixture to flip it. But like, how much more work is it to put it on the inside versus the outside?
Well, okay, so there's a couple things with that. So first off, when your lock bar bends, your angle is changing.
Mm-hmm.
So where that position is. So that is going to require a little bit of different geometry in maybe your lock face and your face for your lock bar, possibly, depending on how thick the frame is and stuff. There's a lot of factors involved in that. But the other part is it depends on your frame too. So for like the Norseman, that's a flat frame. So you could put that on the inside and you're going to have a thin cross section for that lock bar to bend. For a knife like mine, all my knives the frame is a big arc. So if you cut that out on the inside, you don't have a flat surface. You have a thin surface that gets thicker as it goes back, so it might not bend in the right plane. You might start bending in a compound angle compared to the lock face, and try to start doing putting in lock bars like that is going to be tough.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I personally love it when the lock bar cutout is on the inside. Because
yes, absolutely. It
doesn't affect the outside, and it's much more attractive. Like that'd be I love this knife. I love everything about it. That would be one of the only things I would ever change about it.
That is one of the knives that could benefit from that a lot.
Yes.
It's because the frame is so thin, so the angle isn't going to change a lot. That'd be a very good knife to do that.
But they did a really good job because they softened it enough on the edges. It doesn't catch pocket material. The pocket clip is far enough off of it. It's not pushing material in. That's what I have a problem with. A lot of them is on the exterior. Like people are like, well, it doesn't affect when I was like, yeah, but when I put it in my pocket, it catches. And then it pops in, and sometimes it won't be all the way in your pocket. That's a good way to lose a knife because you didn't get it all the way in your pocket. You thought you did. But I have had people tell me, I was like, well, if I do everything on the outside, I don't have to flip it. I don't have to do a refixturing. I don't have to do another evolution. Like I'm already doing everything from the top. Why would I really want to do anything from the inside?
Are machined on both sides.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's, it's no time difference at all. It's just for me, it's the fact that the outside of my frames are
chamfered, they're radiused and chamfered, which makes them incredibly comfortable.
Now with my inlays, the way I do my inlays now, most of the time you won't even see or feel most of that because the lock bar is underneath the inlay. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, almost like a bolster lock.
I don't know if you can see that there, but
yeah.
Where we go? So most of it is under there. You don't even really feel that.
That's what I was saying. It's almost like a bolster lock. It's like a liner lock with the frame up at the top, and then it's like it just kicks in, and then you just.
It's like a little hybrid between all of them.
Yeah, and I don't mind you do the three little cuts, the three individual cuts. I don't mind that at all.
I've done different ways.
At all. Yeah,
I've done. Do I have another one here? Okay, no, but see, so this one is on the outside.
Just like a standard cutout.
I kind of have to do that because the frame. Matter of fact, on this one, the frame changes. Thickness. It's very thin down here compared to the back, where it gets wider. So you have all these different angles. So you have to have.
Yeah.
It's hard to put it on that.
What else did I have on here? What's your favorite blade shape? Like I've noticed that you've got a lot. Like most of yours are like drop point, clip point.
Yeah, pretty much.
Have you ever done a Warrenclyffe?
No, it's funny because I was just thinking about that the other day because I'm getting to a point where I have to come out with something new now, and I'm like, what haven't I done really yet as far as blade shapes? The problem that I have is I always wanted that ratio to be very close, the blade to handle ratio, and I've always strived for making that as tight as I can. And the Warrenclyffe style frame. That being said, at the same time, I want that blade in the handle. I don't want the blade to be sticking out of the frame. So when you do that, it makes that handle to blade ratio very bad in that shaped blade.
I've seen now. I have a couple of them. Like, so
There's a couple people that do it good.
like Elliot Williamson.
I don't want to
from
look
Baron
at their
Forge.
work, so it's
The
like
Master Blaster, the Master Blaster that Elliot Williamson did with Les George. Like that is almost. It's very close to almost like 1-to-1 blade to handle ratio. And he did the handle. Yeah, he did the handle so it comes down. I can grab it. It's right over here. I'll show you in a second. But like the handle comes down and then drops, and the blade is just almost sticking out. Like you can almost touch it. But the way he championed, like he maximized the amount of blade. And that's one of the things too. Like Elliot, that's why Elliot likes your knives, because you're really big. He likes at almost even blade to handle ratio, as close as you can get 1-to-1. That's his, like, he's big on symmetry because it looks off if you don't do it that way.
Yeah.
And he's got a couple knives that, like, you open it, you're like, how the fuck does the handle look smaller than the blade?
That is Adam Purvis's knife here. This is like that. It's the blade is massive for the handle size, and I'm like, I love that about it. That's I carry this knife.
Give me just a second. I'm gonna grab 2 of them. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Actually, I'm gonna grab 3. So Elliot, when he did this one, so your handle comes down and it's kind of got that high spot, but you can see the blade. Like if I stick my finger way up in there, I can touch the blade. So it comes down, and then when you open it, it's really got really good blade to handle ratio.
I love that frame too. I love that stuff.
That's one of those. This was one that I don't know if I ever showed this one to you. This is that one that a couple of my friends got him to hand carve.
Yeah, I think I remember that.
Yeah, this is that one that he hand carved for me. They got it for me as a gift, and he did it like the xenomorph from Aliens, because I like the Geiger stuff.
I love this stuff.
But here's the one that I was talking about. So you got this little guy right here, and then it's just like literally looks like you have more blade than you have handle. I'm like, how did you even get that in there? And then it has a big brother that is just the same. Like you have the frame, and then you've got the blade. You're like, good God, that's a lot of knife jammed in that. Yeah. So there's a handful of I wasn't a big fan of Warnies until I got that one, and then I was like, oh, okay, that's a good one right there.
Yeah, I haven't drawn anything that I was satisfied to go to
production with.
Yeah, I can't do it. I have to get it right, and I haven't found it yet.
So how long does it take? Okay, how long does it take from start to finish to do a knife? And are you doing it in batches, or are you doing them one at a time? Do you do everything on one knife, or you do a bunch of parts and then go back through and do a bunch more parts and then assemble them?
It depends on how my life is going. There was a point in my life when I first started and I was doing the Typhoons, the original Typhoons and the mini Typhoons, and even a couple knives after that. I was very regimented, so I would do small batches and say I'm going to make 25 inserts, 25 clips, 25 whatever frames, 25 blades, and I do it like that in small batches and then put them all together. Now things are going awry. I don't know. It's like, so because part of it is this dagger thing. I keep going back to make that because people keep asking me for daggers and daggers. So
well, I understand it. So, guys, if you've never seen one of Brian's daggers, you owe it to yourself to at least find someone that has one and just get a chance to mess around with it, because I was not ready for when I picked that one up. So backstory. I was going to USN. I reached out to Brian. He had you hate table lotteries. I know that you hate them. And so I reached out because a customer asked me to, and I talked to Brian a few times. And I was like, hey, I got a customer that wants a specific knife that you have up. Could I convince you not to offer it at the table, and I'll just give it, you just hold it for me? And he goes, absolutely. Fucking which one? So I had to go pick this knife up, and I show up at the table, and you handed it to me, and I wasn't ready for what it was a complete, I was taken aback. I was afraid to touch it. It was so beautiful. It was like a piece of art. I didn't want to mess with it. It was blue. It had a herringbone pattern. Like the milling was like a herringbone pattern with Damascus, and it was blue fucking fat carbon fiber. And I was like, I don't even want to touch it. It was like the Mona Lisa of knives at that moment. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, I like them too. What's not to like about them? You know what I mean? They're just like, I put a lot of time and thought into them, and they just turned out. It worked well with my flipper tabs. Worked well with it. The symmetry from on both axes are perfect. It's like everything just works out well. Now, I really would want them integral. I have a couple pieces of crazy time maskets, thick time maskets to nerve cutting.
I can't tell if you're breaking up or if I'm breaking up. I'm trying to check my internet status here while we're talking. Uh-oh. I do believe we may have lost Brian, or we may have lost me. I don't know which. Can you guys hear me? Uh-oh.
We back?
Yeah, now we're back. I'm trying to see.
Right.
I was trying to say, I was like, is it my internet? I'm like checking the status of my Wi-Fi and
I'm
shit
looking.
here.
My TV's still. I stream all my stuff. Oh, my TV. My TV's still working. I looked at my phone. I don't know.
I'm going to prioritize this device, so that might help.
It could be me. Who knows?
Okay, Brian's back. So it wasn't. I was afraid. I was afraid it was me, and then I'm like, I'm in like an echo chamber. An echo chamber. So, have you? I wanted to ask you. So, your knives are pretty much like old school flipper knives. They're just incredibly well done. Have you seen? Because I want to touch on this. Have you seen the Winter Blades Factor that uses magnets for the detent and the lock?
No.
It is brilliant. Like how it's I don't want to say it's brilliant like he thought of something, because it doesn't do anything new. It just does it different, and it does it like it's executed brilliantly. He came up with a really good way. So magnets hold. I've got it over here. I'll show it to you in a minute after we talk about something that you innovated. So it's the magnets hold it in detent. It's like a sliding bar lock, but without a spring. It's got a magnet that pulls it in when the blade comes up to a point, and it is incredibly well done, and it has a different feel. Like I said it in a video, like it doesn't do anything new. It just does what other knives do, but a little bit different. And it's great. I'm really impressed with it. If I could retrofit some of my knives with it, I would.
So the magnets just hold it in, and then it has a standard lock bar on the.
No, it doesn't have a lock bar. So you know how the axis lock works, where like when the blade comes up and then the spring pushes it. Well, when you open it and then the blade comes up, the magnet pulls up in, as opposed to having a spring. So there's no springs. And then the detent, there's no lock bar or anything. So the detent is the magnets that are in the hand. I'll show it to you in a second. But I wanted to talk about your, you don't use a detent ball.
No, I early on I was playing around with where that geometry, like where that ball should be and what the best spot for that ball is, the shortest amount of track length. And it was always right at that edge of the lock bar. So when I would drill it, trying to get it as close as I can and push the ball in, I would end up breaking it out. And I said, how can I do this different? So then I machined into that lock, the detent. First time I did it, I machined a little ball. And then I said, no, why am I doing a ball? I can do a shape. And I did like a, basically
it looks like an apostrophe
now, but it evolved to that shape. And it just made more sense in my process, and it was a little different from what everybody else was doing. So it worked well for me. Now it has a different feel. A lot of people don't like. You can make it, if you have it go way down onto that ramp, how do I say this? Okay, so if you start pulling on the lock bar, we call it turtle heading. You can get the tip of that blade to come out. You let it go and it goes back in, because I have that long angle, that ramp that it travels.
I would say it's
So
a ramp. Exactly.
right.
You can push it off the ramp a little bit. Yeah.
Right. Now I can shorten that ramp and make that almost disappear, but you just won't have the longevity. If you have it set up the way it's supposed to be, you know, I have knives out that have been flipped millions of times probably, and I think I've maybe changed one lock bar out of thousands and thousands of knives.
It's pretty good. Now I don't know if you want to talk about the shit that happened with someone else, but back a while back with
Yeah,
something else.
It sucks that it happened, but I think that horse has been beat pretty good.
Dead issue.
Yeah.
I mentioned it, and I like those people. They are good. They're good, decent knife makers. I just that kind of like I hadn't heard about it before that. It kind of put a bad taste in my mouth. So this
there was more than that, you know. So it doesn't have to be that way. Just do things, you know.
Oh, you and I talked about
honestly.
it. Yeah, you and I talked about it at length. So this is that knife I was just talking about, and it's going to look weird because I'm using a green screen.
I've seen pictures of it. I just never handled it. Yeah.
Okay, so this lock does not use a spring; it's a magnet, and then the detent is a magnet. So when you flip it, oh, it's got a cool sound too. If you just release it, the magnets suck it back up. So what it is there's two magnets on either side here, on this end, and then there's a magnet in here. And so when you release it, it drops back down, and then when the blade goes forward, the magnet will pull up in and lock.
Those magnets at the tip of the one is closed at the tip of the blade, that they're obviously not touching. So
no.
they're on the sides, or are they on the?
They're on each side. There's one set in each scale on either side, and then
that holds it in, huh?
Yeah, and then there's two guides, two little. So you see the magnets are here, and then there's two little guides up there. So there's guides, and then there's magnets, and the guides keep it from like slamming into the magnet. So if your blade happens to be a little bit loose, and it has such a unique feel. It doesn't feel like the detent you're used to. It just kind of feels a little bit different. And then this area right here is a flipper tab. Nice. So it's actually really unique. And like I said, it's the only knife I've handled that fights gravity to go into detent. And I was like,
and that's the things, you know, it's coming up with something unique, something a little bit different to stand out among. There's so many good people out there making good stuff. It's hard, you know, it's hard to stand out above the crowd. And that's why it's important to come up with your own shit, come up with your own identity. If you're going to be doing something else that, you know, that somebody else is known for, you know, talk to them about it.
Yeah. Well, and that's, I mean, it's such, I say this all the time, the knife community, knife makers, and I was a custom knife maker for a while. I got a couple designs out. It's a really, like, people have like, hey, I have people that make knives that look similar to that small little Wardenclyffe fixed blade that I make. And they're like, hey, just wanted to touch base with you because I came up with a design and it's really close. And I'm like, you made a Wardenclyffe fixed blade. Like, I can't get upset. Like, there's only so much in the fixed blade world that you can do to change things. I was like, I don't have a lanyard hole in mine. Put a lanyard hole in it. I won't say anything. They're like, oh yeah, I wanted to do this knife, but like it looked too close. And I'm like, it's just another knife, man. Like, if people like your knife, they'll buy it. Like, I don't care. It's not, now don't steal my design one for one, like the fucking dickholes did that they're selling it. Like, that knife was $250 and they're selling a shitty like 7 CR version of it for like $49 on Amazon.
It's not even the point that they're competing or anything like that. It's just do the right thing, you know. It's you heard about the couple of the things that happened to me in this, you know, in the past year with, you know, Fat Carbon stealing my money.
Oh, that was horrible.
Never producing. I mean, stupid shit. None of that has to be. Just
no.
You know.
I have told everyone I know. I was like, don't, like, I won't buy a knife if it says that it's Fat Carbon. I won't buy it. Like, I know that Carbon Plate took up the slack for him.
No, did I say Fat Carbon?
Yeah, it's Carbon Plate. Carbon Plate is the one that stole all your money.
I'm sorry.
Fat Carbon.
That.
That's right. Okay. Sorry, guys, we got that backwards.
Yeah, please. I'm
yeah, it
very
was
sorry about that because
carbon
Fat
plate.
Carbon,
Yeah,
Fat Carbon stepped up when I needed them, and they in 2 weeks they had all the stuff that the other company should have had done. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It
You
was
still
carbon
haven't got
plate.
that money back? You still haven't gotten any of that
Oh,
money back?
I didn't even. There's nobody even. Who am I going to go after? You know what I mean? It cost me more to go after anybody, and then you'd never get anything.
Pack a
It's,
bag.
you know,
I haven't.
I'm thankful that they're not in this country. You know what I mean? Because in principle, I'd have to burn their house down. But being that they don't live here,
Right?
I don't have to. I don't have to worry about it. It's not
That's
worth
what I
going
was
to
just
jail for
thinking.
12
Like, I
grand.
forgot where are they at? Where are they at?
Tartarstan was one of them, and the other one was Canada at one point, and then who knows? They're playing. They obviously play games with all of that. You know what I mean?
I was like, because if it's anywhere close to Japan, we could cut some of the cost by staying at my in-laws' house. They all play softball. Plenty of bats.
It's not enough money to worry about it. You know, I mean,
That
it
is.
sucks. You don't want to lose that 12 grand, but it's not like
12 grand is like 12 grand's like 30 more than I've got right now. So yeah, 12 grand, I'll break your knees with a ball bat for 12 grand. Like you screw me out of.
You're welcome to collect it for me.
You screw me out of 1,200. I'm probably going to show up at your house. That's going to be like I'll flatten you.
That's why I'm glad they're not here.
Flatten 3 of your tires. People are like, why 3? I was like, because if you do all 4, they can claim it on our insurance. So yeah. Like if you happen to drive over something and you get all 4 of your tires flat, your insurance company will offset the cost of your new tires. But if you flatten 2 or 3, they won't. It's got to be all 4. I told a guy one time I was going to help him if he didn't stop messing with me. I'd help him rotate his tires, and I was like, I will come to your house every other week, and I will flatten your right front and your left rear, and then the next following 2 weeks, I'll flatten your left front and your right rear. And I was like, I'm not just going to it's not something you can patch. I'm going to cut the whole sidewall. He goes, why would you do that? I was like, 2 reasons. 1, it's going to cost you a lot of money. And 2, how many spare tires do you have? I only got 1. I'm at least going to flatten 2 of your tires.
Yeah, I can't. Just a thought about cars and flat tires and all that shit aggravates me.
Did you get your truck home yet?
It's in New Jersey. I mean, I didn't get it yet because it's got to be fixed, but it's in New Jersey. So I booked somebody myself. It cost me $500. So
That's not bad.
No, not bad at all. So cause I told the insurance company they weren't finding anybody. I said, do not book somebody to pick up the truck. I will take care of it at this point because I just wanted to get it home. I didn't want to get it fixed down there and have to drive another 10 hours back and forth to get the car. So at that point, I said, I found somebody, hired somebody, $500. They're just brokers. They're finding somebody that will take the car for that price, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
In the meantime, I get now you sign up for this stuff. You know, you go online and say long haul car transport. All of a sudden, you get bombarded by hundreds and hundreds of phone calls, DMs, emails, you name it, nonstop. So it's confused. Now you're trying to make heads or tails of everybody you're talking to. Who did you say what to? And it's just like, so now I think I booked this company. This guy calls me and says, yes, I'm going to be picking up the car in an hour and a half. I said, oh, great. I said, you're from whatever the company that I booked from. He said, oh, they're just a broker. I'm the guy. I'm just the driver. I'm like, oh, okay. Come to find out.
It's like AAA and they send a tow truck.
Yeah, but that wasn't them. That wasn't the people I hired booked. That's the insurance company booked these people.
Oh,
so
Jesus.
now I'm trying to get my money back from these other bastards who don't want to pay up. It's just like, oh, man. The whole thing was a fiasco. My drone went in the drink. I got stung by a jelly. My elbow's all fucked up from a jellyfish. I don't know if you can see that.
I don't think you should take a fucking vacation anymore, bud.
It's normally not like this. I don't know.
I'll tell you what. You want to talk about getting overloaded with emails. So have you ever watched the Cutlery Corner Network? They sell all the old garbage Frost cutlery, like gas station knives. They're like, you can get these 8 knives for $12. You could resell them for $30 each. I was like, no, you can't. They're horrible. But we were doing a live feed one night, and we were watching that live, and it was before I quit drinking. So obviously, I was probably intoxicated. And everybody was like, oh, you should get these. I was like, I'll tell you what, if you guys donate enough money for these knives. I will order this. It was 3 knives for $20. And they're like, oh, well, what about shipping? So we ordered the free shipping knife. And then one of the other YouTubers kicked in and bought. So I wound up with 5 knives from Cutlery Corner Network, which that's fine. Like I was going to do it as a review. They're horrible. They're like, they say it's like a $90 value. I was like, that wasn't worth what I paid for the shipping knife to get everything here. They're fucking horrible. But I've told people, like, I ordered that. Like when you buy from them, they have, well, it's a live feed, so I can get away. They have butt fucked my email. Like I can't go a day without getting like 30 emails from Frost Cutlery and Cutlery Corner Network. I'm like, at this point, I'm like, I'm gonna have to shut that email account down.
Isn't it ridiculous?
Get a new one.
It's ridiculous that you have to do that. So I used to have Brian at sharpbydesign.com years ago, and the company.
I was pretty buzzed at that point.
And the company that I was using for all my email stuff, they didn't have the filters that would let me get rid of all this shit. And I was getting, hundreds of emails, nonstop, just like to filter through that. If you didn't sit and look at every email as it came in, you couldn't keep up with it.
I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, but I currently have 1,180 emails. And I guarantee 700 of them are
emails. Yeah.
Jesus Christ, Brian. How do you live your life like that?
I just cleaned that out. I did that not too long ago. I cleaned that out not too long ago.
You win. I got to do it again.
That's not my business email. That's my private email. So
that's just the garbage email.
Jammed up with shit.
Fuck. That's a lot. That's a lot of emails. So yeah, I had one last question or two here. What YouTube knife channels do you watch to see what other stuff is going on in the knife world? And you don't have to say mine because no one. I see my
I
analytics.
Don't watch any other one, just yours.
Don't lie.
The truth is, I watch none of them.
That's okay. I was gonna say that's better because I see my analytics. I was like, you don't have to lie and say you watch mine. I know how few people watch.
I don't watch stuff about myself. I don't watch. I try not to look at other people's stuff. I really just stay away from it. I'm more not gun stuff. I'm in every fucking gun form there is. But it's just knife stuff. I had a firearms channel on another platform because you really can't do it on YouTube. It's so hard. Like if you want to make money on it, you can't do it. And then the platform I was using, they were like, yeah, we had to close the doors because we don't get any traffic. And I'm like, yeah, I see. People are like, oh, I bet you watch all of this and all of that. There's some channels that like when I see they post something, I will go and I'll watch like the first minute of a video because that's what gets, like if you stay for like past 30 seconds, that's when people that gets you a view, and that's a monetized view. And so I do it because they're friends like Cole and stuff like that. A lot of times I will watch all of Cole's or Jared's, but people are like, oh, I bet you watch so many knife channels. And I'm like, I really don't, because by the time I've done like an entire day of doing videos and the editing process and researching everything about the knife and doing all the stuff, that's not what I want to watch. Like that's the same problem I'm having with like the podcast stuff when they're going on and they're going on and talking about all this stuff. It's like, I do this all day, every day, deal with customers and knives, and it's just like I'm done. I don't want when I don't have to talk about it. I don't want to. So I kind of just sit back and I'm like, I don't say too much.
You can hear it. You can hear it. Like you can hear it. And like, what's your take on it, Brian? I don't fucking care.
What are we talking about?
What are you talking about? I really wasn't.
I was going off because they're talking about like these production-made knives from these companies I don't even know, and they're talking about people and I have no idea the amount. I've never seen an industry where the consumer knows everything about every maker every person in their family, what blood type they are, if they had any wet dreams. You know, they know everything about these guys and who they're dealing with, and they're behind the scenes dealing, and they know it all. And it amazes me. I don't know where I was going with all that, but I felt like mentioning that. I don't know why I started or where it was going, but
that happens a lot. I'll be going. I was like, I think that the train left the station without me. I started a thought and I am unable to complete it.
Nowhere even close to.
No, but I know what you're saying. Like the people knowing everything about like a maker and shit. I've never been that interested in it. Like I've made a lot of friends in the knife world and the knife industry and going to shows and like you and Levon and people like that. But I don't honestly give a fuck about what Brian Nadeau does on his Saturdays. Like, did you hear he likes to go fishing? I just like to pick on you. I just like to pick on you because you spend so much time fishing. I'm like, it must be nice to be living that high life in the knife world.
I don't even spend close to enough time fishing. It's ridiculous how little fishing I do. I
honestly have not. I didn't film anything today, so this is the closest I've had to a day off in a while. A couple Tuesdays ago, I told the guys that were like, I did some editing and posting stuff. Like I can't. Like I've got so much stuff going on, and so to fit it in with taking care of the kid and her being a competitive ice skater, and the wife works, which means that like I got to fit in my work schedule. And people are like, "What do you mean you're still making videos at like 8, 9 o'clock at night?" I was like, "Well, I had to take the kid ice skating because the wife was at work. Like I'm the one that can work from home, so that default am the one that takes her to figure skating lessons and stuff like that on like midday because she does school from home so that she can skate because that's how high a level she's at. So yeah, it's definitely interesting how it is in the knife world where people just know everything there is about a maker, and I honestly don't fucking care.
I get it a little bit. If you have a couple famous men, we're going to use Levon and Dave and the guys from the podcast that I'm with for an example, you know, because they know these are basically the people I'm talking about. Everybody else is normal. Yeah. These guys are fucking. These three guys are crazy. I mean, I don't know why you know some of that stuff or care about that stuff. It just, I don't know. To me, it's just like. I guess, I don't know. I have hobbies too that I'm probably crazy about that. People would say, what the hell are you thinking about that about? But I don't know. It just seems like a lot.
See, I don't have any actual hobbies. This was my hobby, the knife making and stuff like that. And I kind of the knife sharpening, I turned it into a business. And I'm fine with it. Like, I'm happy with that. But I don't have any of the hobbies I had anymore. Mainly because, like, the stuff that I was doing before, I'm just physically unable. Like, I can't ride. I can't ride horses. I can't ride rodeo. It's not that.
It's the time. You know, you don't have the time. I had basically down to fishing and shooting. You know, that's
I have. I love to shoot, but I can't afford ammo anymore. Oh, it's ridiculous. And I was like, I could take stuff that I've got, but I just can't afford to replenish it. I've got that in case the zombies attack.
I was, you know, when 9mm was like $150 for 1,000 rounds, I was like, I'll hold off. I'll wait. It's getting too expensive. And then things just got crazy. And
now you're like,
now $300 for 1,000. It's like, all right, you know. So I depleted during that time. I depleted all my ammo because I still shot like I typically would shoot, you know, at least one time, sometimes a couple times a week. You know, so I depleted all my ammo, and I just replaced it all. It's like, ugh.
It's ridiculously expensive, and I don't mean just the ammunition. It's ridiculously the range cost out here is ridiculous. I can't afford it. So, Aiden asks, what do you watch or listen to when you tune out? Like, what do you?
Sadly, I don't watch too. You know, so what happened is once I started making knives full time, I worked so many hours that I never really watched TV. I had tunes playing in the shop, and I would listen to tunes and work, and that pretty much got me out of all of TV. Like, I stopped watching TV for a long time to a point where, you know, I just didn't watch it. You know, it just didn't make sense. And now I'll watch like an hour of TV a night, but most of the time, when I'm just about to crash and just zoning, it's, you know, I'm flipping through my Instagram, dealing with all that shit, and we'll get caught up looking at stupid Instagram stuff, and before you know it, you know, 45 minutes pass by. I'm like, all right, there goes my free time. I spent it watching stupid shit. That's a big cat. You've got a big head.
Yeah, I do. Hey, hi. You went down? Okay. He that's not our cat. That cat adopted us. He decided he lives here, and like he comes out and like he sweetest cat ever. Like he'll if you're holding him, like I had him in a weird position so he wouldn't stay. But like if you grab like cats don't, he's shedding. Cats don't like it when you grab their feet. Usually, if you grab his foot, he'll give you the other one. He wants them both. He wants you to hold both of them. And I was like, "You're not a normal cat." That's my dog's best friend.
No more cats for me. We got dogs now. I got 2 dogs. I'm done.
Well, I got a golden retriever.
We went through
she's just a big dumbass.
You know, we went through that point with the kids where it was, we had the dogs and we had the lizard, and this one has 2 fish, and that one had 2 fish, and this one had a bird, and it was just like, you know what? The only person taking care of all that shit was me. I'm like, so things started dying off. I don't know what happened.
I don't know. I stopped feeding them. It was so much cheaper. So yeah, this cat just showed up and became like my dog's best friend. So like we don't let the cat stay overnight very often because he has a tendency.
He's really not your cat?
No, he's not our cat. Like we sold our house and moved here. We had a cat, and he like just that cat. Just I think a coyote got it or someone one night when we put it out because it wasn't our cat either. It was a cat that adopted us, and we had planned when we got ready to move on taking it with us, and it kind of disappeared. And when we moved in, this cat just started like letting itself in the garage. I'd be out here fucking around, and I was like, he's huge, he's massive. And I was like, please don't get mad at me. And I was petting, and he's just really, really sweet. And he just started letting himself in the house. You'd open a door and he'd walk in, and the dog and the cat will be all cuddled up on the couch together. They'll chase each other around on the couch for a little bit. And then just, they're like best friends.
Yeah. I made that mistake when I first moved in here, and I was in the garage and I had my garage door open, and this one orange cat kept coming into my garage, and
shop cat.
Yeah.
It's you see everybody. That's how it started. I was like, shop
until
cat.
I walked in my driveway. You would walk in my driveway, and fleas would jump all over your legs. Yeah, you just infested my whole fucking house. I had it was like hundreds of dollars to get everything sprayed. It was like, oh my God.
We haven't had any problems because the owners live across the street. He's always got a flea collar and shit. And so we haven't had any problems with it. But he has his own home. He just comes over here for a few hours every day and hangs out.
Rounds and see what kind of food they can get.
You were talking about I don't watch TV, and I hadn't watched TV in a long time. And then my sister got a subscription to YouTube TV. So it's way cheaper than cable. She got it. You can put 6 family members all on the same account.
Yeah, that's typically what we use now is we stream everything. So
well, this is live. This is like live TV with a full unlimited DVR at 50 or 60, 80 channels, something like that. And I'm like, this is actually really cool. I had not watched TV in years, and now I find myself watching. Like I said, I can pull up. You can pull up old UFC fights, and I find myself watching old UFC fights. Like I was watching the Shell Sonic.
If I do anything UFC is pretty much because my son is so deep into it now that's pretty much if the most out of everything I watch that the most. Yeah, absolutely. Because it's
I watch it all the time.
Hours.
So, well, that's all I got. You got anything that you want to let everybody know? Any announcements you want to make about anything that's going on? I know we talked about future plans, but do you have anything that's in the works right now that you're going to have coming out soon?
Right now, I'm waiting for these Apex to arrive. They were supposed to be here in May, and it's now, I don't even know when is it. What is it now? August yet?
Yeah, it's August.
So August,
in a few days.
It's like, come on, it's getting far. I want to get these out and delivered, and people have been waiting a long time for them, and they're going to be badass. If you like the people who like the Void, it's kind of like the Void XL almost. It has a little more meat in the handle, just a touch more blade, much better size. Did things a little bit different this time. Had screw-in inlays from the inside. That's why I went with metal inlays compared to carbon fibers and all that stuff, because you can't really thread that right. You gotta
Yeah.
epoxy and spacers, threaded standoffs or whatever, and it's that starts to get a little funky with all that stuff. So, but they look fantastic. The ones that I did see.
Oh, I know. It's like, almost like a helicore, like putting a helicore in so that you've threaded the insert.
Yeah, but you don't really want to thread it. You're going to have to. You can keyhole it to where it locks in, and then epoxy it, or you got to do something. But the problem is, inlays are so thin. You're not working with much real estate there, and it doesn't take much to pop out, 3 threads on a 256 screw, So
that's already a very, very fine thread pattern.
Right.
Anyway.
So it's a fine line of doing things right. That's why I had to go with metal inlays, and so I went with aluminum, anodized aluminum. A lot of people aren't really fond of aluminum on knives for some reason. I think these were done in a tasteful way. 3D
I like
machine.
aluminum because the hard coat, you can get some very striking colors with the
Well, that's what's nice about them.
them.
I wanted to do some color with it. At the same time, it didn't make sense to do, titanium, and titanium colors change so much with oils. I wanted to do some, and at that same time that this was all going down, it was the same time I got screwed over by carbon plate. So I was like, I'm not doing anything exotic right now. I just wanted to stick to something I could get off the shelf and do and have nice. So I had the aluminum 7075 aluminum inlays made, anodized. I had the blue and the red. The other
the red always looks good. It catches
both they're vibrant. They don't dull out.
Yeah, it doesn't, like when you get oil, like you said, like anodizing looks great if it's done real well. But the second it gets oily, then you got to wash, especially like the blues.
They wash purples, out to almost nothing.
Yeah, they wash out to bronze. Like once they get like a little bit of skin oil on. And the aluminum, depending on the surface finish, it's almost like it almost looks like a crystal. Like it catches it. It's got some pearlescence to it, like some.
So I think people are going to be, happy with what they see here, because the ones that I had in hand, they look nice. They came out really good. And
so, Patina asked, any plans more Knife Nuts podcasts? They love the shows. I haven't seen. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't listened to any of the.
It's funny because I didn't do. They did one this week, and I didn't show up for that one, but I'm here. But that being said, I wanted, with the podcast, I just wanted it to be more frequent and a little more, I don't know. Everybody's busy. I get it. You know how much work it is to really do it right.
Oh, yeah.
So nobody, I think, is in a position where they can make it their full-time gig. So it's hard.
People don't realize what it takes. Like I said, I shoot and edit 9 full-length videos, 5 shorts, and I do 3 live feeds every week. And it literally takes hours to get everything like this is live. So this goes up on YouTube Live. I don't have to do anything, but I also then have to take this audio file. I have to convert it. I have to then upload it to YouTube. I have to put in all the links. I have to do all the stuff that not YouTube, but Apple Podcast requires. And it's a lot of work. And if people are like, oh, you just have a YouTube channel, that's not work. And I'm like, I'm putting like 16, 18 hours a day into it, and for very little return on that investment, but it's growing. Like I'm at it has taken me, it took me like 2 or 3 years to get to 1,000. And it took about a year every time to get another 1,000 subscribers. And then when I hit like 7,000, I went from 7,000 to 8,000, and it's literally been like a month, and I'm almost at 9,000 now. So if you put the work into it, and you just have to stay on.
You see it growing. It's just it's the same thing with anything like that. You got to put the time in to make it. If it came easy, everybody would be doing it. I mean, almost everybody is trying it, but it's to make it successful. It's tough. You got to put the time and work in. And again, we're at we would like to do them more often.
I get like
where we can do it.
Well, and I mean, because there's a handful of you, so you have the availability. You don't have to they
make it easy on me. They know if they made it work, I wouldn't be showing up. I'd be like, I'm done. I came this close to being done 50 times already. So it's like, and it's not that I don't want to do it and help. It's just I'm overloaded with my own shit. I don't
Yeah.
have, for me to show up to the thing is for the podcast is tough.
Well, like I forgot to say it. Like, so one day a week on Thursdays, the day that typically is the day that I can goof off in the evening, I now film another podcast with my friend Polly that we call the Peanut Butter and Pickles podcast. And so I'm spending another hour. So now I have some, and I do the tags and stuff for that. But it's fun. It's me and Polly, and it's like if I do content that's on this channel that's outside of the knife content, it kind of screws up the algorithm, because then the algorithm's like, we don't know where to show these videos. We don't know who to show these videos to. So me and Polly used to do it on. He would come on the show.
Couldn't you set it up like on his end? So he's
exactly. It's associated with his. But I do I can go in and I can change the tags, and I can change the thumbnails, and because I'm gotten pretty good at it. I can do stuff like thumbnails now and backgrounds and stuff. So it's kind of like, I'm like, wow, I'm already really busy. Let's throw something else on the plate. I'm like, I'm a fucking idiot. What was I thinking? Like, that's what I needed was one more hour of work a week.
But when my life is like that, where you're doing extra stuff and you're constantly busy and you don't have time to think, that's really where I am at peace the most.
Right. I was getting ready to say that's where
my mind gets the best of me when I have time to think about shit.
Well,
I don't know.
Somebody asked me, like, why would you, if you say you're so busy all the time, would you throw something else on? I was like, because I was in the military for my entire adult life. I don't have an idle. Like, I don't hover. I don't know how to idle. Like, I can't just sit and not do anything. I'm constantly doing something. Even if I'm not doing anything, I'm like writing down things like questions, and I'm thinking of stuff that I want to do, and plotting out like what videos I'm going to shoot next week. I don't have a moment throughout the day where I just sit idle. Even if I'm playing like a video game or something, I'm still like, I'm constantly trying to do something. I got to do something all day, every day. It could be the fact that this is a bucket-sized coffee cup, and I fucking drink like 8 of these a day. That could be part of it, but
I start my day off with a coffee, an extra large coffee. But what's funny, and it's probably not good for me, there's more days than not, I wake up in the morning, have my coffee, and I don't stop until dinner time or 8 o'clock at night before I even have a drink. I'll go from morning till night on a coffee.
Oh yeah,
more days than not.
I have set alarms. To remind myself to drink water. I was out because it's still 79 degrees out here, and I got a fan blowing air from outside after the sun has set. It's still like 79 degrees in the studio. Which I was in Iraq and Kuwait, so I'm used to the heat. It doesn't bother me. And I've been out in Southern California, and I was in the tropics of Japan for 13 years. But I will be out here, and I literally will go all day and not drink anything except coffee. And I did that here not too long ago, and I woke up the next morning, and I felt like I had a hangover. And I was like,
right,
shit, I quit drinking 2 months ago. What the fuck? I haven't had a beer.
I tell my wife I feel like shit all the time. It's like, because I have a coffee in the morning, and that's all I have all day. It's like, of course I feel like shit.
I've set alarms. I have like alarms throughout the day on my phone or on my watch, so it just buzzes. I have them set like 8 or 9 alarms throughout the day to drink a big glass of water. And I was like, yeah, I got to start doing that. So, well, Brian, this has been a lot of fun. I'm going to end this because I've got friends that came in all the way from Phoenix. I appreciate you coming on. This was a lot of fun. You're welcome to come on if you want anytime. We can talk about it. If you got anything new that's coming up.
I'm surprised it took so long. I thought I said something wrong. I was like, man, this guy blew me off for years.
But the whole getting guests on is great, but it also can be problematic with time. Like, I had a guy that just canceled on me the day of, and it was the second time, and I was like, fuck it, you're not coming on ever. I'm not offering it again.
Yeah, I mean, you can only deal with that so much.
Yeah. And people get upset because I do Monday, Wednesday, Friday live feeds, and sometimes I don't. And sometimes I just feel like doing it. Like, if I don't have a guest, it's just me, and I'm like talking, and I have to like generate what I'm talking about based off of their comments that you can see them on the side over there. But like a lot of times they'll get into like side conversations, and I'm completely lost, and then it's just me sitting there like this, like I don't know what you guys are doing.
I had it on private chat that whole time. I could have seen all the comments. I didn't see one comment the whole time.
Yeah, the comments. So there is a private chat, and then there's comments. What is the name
Oh.
of this? I do this. So Fridays when I'm doing an actual podcast, it comes up as Beer and Blades. But I don't drink anymore. So I figure I'm going to have to change the name of it.
Something else.
Yeah, I had to quit. Like I was having so many problems with the perforated intestine and all that, and like I was like, I just got to stop drinking. Everybody's like, oh, well, you're gonna have a hard time drinking because you're like you drink all the time. I was like, I really have never had a problem stopping drinking. Like I quit drinking when the kid was born for like a year, and there were guys that knew me and they were like,
myself.
well, I was. That's the thing. Like there's people like, bro, like
I
I've
wasn't
seen.
a day, but you know what? Ever since I started working for myself, that's when everything changed. It's
Yeah,
all that stuff.
I mean-
I didn't have time to do all that. Well, I say that, but while I'm making stuff, while I'm in the shop, there's other stuff going on. So
yeah, yeah, I know.
a lot of that.
Yeah. I honestly like, so I would go a long time without drinking and my tolerance never dropped off. From the day I started drinking, I've always had like an insane tolerance. I have a Russian friend. He's a professional boxer. And I went to his house one time and I drank an entire bottle of Jameson's and we were just sitting there and he goes, you're not the drunk, huh? He's like, no, not at all. A little tipsy, but I'm not drunk. He was like, I'm very drunk. He's like, you're not Russian? I was like, no, I'm Irish.
My wife's the same way. You can't tell, when you can tell she's drunk, it's way
Yeah,
bad.
it's bad. I'm like, that's where like we finished off a bottle and had to crack another one. Or halfway through the second bottle. I'm like, yeah, now I'm drunk. So, all right.
Yeah, man.
We'll definitely revisit this like when the new knives come out. I know you like you said you've got them coming up. So,
Yeah, they should be out any day.
guys, like I said, that's it. We're gonna end this. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, like I said, there is a full video version of this on YouTube, and I will make sure that I put a link to the video in the description. So, guys, hope you all had fun. I know I did. It has taken way too long for us to get you on here because this was fun.
Long time, right? We talked
Right?
about it for a long time, though. But I'm
It's-
glad it
yeah,
happened. We'll do it again.
Yeah. So, Andy,
Awesome.
it's peanut butter and pickles. The other podcast is peanut butter and pickles. Because what two things could you picture that don't go together that work out really well? So, guys, I love you all. Take it easy, and I will
Take
see
care,
you
bro.
next time.